Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Trinket of Love. My name is Alicia and this is my service dog in training, Trinket. She is almost 5 months old and we have started task training, so I thought I would do a video to show you guys what we've been working on. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get started. So I'd like to start off by saying that Trinket is an amazing puppy that learns and picks up on simple tasks and basic obedience pretty quickly. However, she does take longer to adapt to new surroundings, so confidence building exercises are very important for her. For this reason, we take things at a slower pace and make sure to only practice her skills in public when she's comfortable and ready. I'll be making a video on public access training within the next couple weeks. In that video, I'll be discussing how to recognize when your pup is ready for public access, which locations are great for training, and how to properly prepare your pup for public access training. As I mentioned in the previous video, each dog and handler is different and will learn at different rates. Just remember to focus on your own personal journey with your dog, reach out to someone if you need help, have fun, and just do your own personal best. Trinket is now 5 months old and we've been working on basic task training for her psychiatric alerts and responses. We started working on these at home as they were all new to her, except for her alert for scratching, which she nailed quickly, so we started working on it while out in public places. We've been working on DPT, or deep pressure therapy, where Trinket lays on my lap and applies pressure to help slow my heart rate, reduce anxiety, and minimize the length of a panic episode. We first started out with me sitting on the floor with my legs straight out, then we moved to working with me sitting in a chair, then on our coffee table. Sitting in different positions and in different locations exposes her to different chair heights as well as different surfaces. Since she doesn't have a lot of body awareness, this is one that's taking her a while to learn. In these clips, you may see where I may correct her position at times. After she understood the hand signal as well as the command I taught her DPT, which is cover, we started practicing this in public locations. By practicing this in public, Trinket is able to generalize this skill so she'll be able to perform it anytime in any location. This also allowed her to practice a skill she was comfortable with in an environment that had distractions. Like I said before, this one is challenging for Trinket due to her lack of body awareness, which we will be working on in the coming months. We also started working on the task between, where Trinket will come between my legs and sit or lay down. When first giving the command between, I wait until I have her attention, give the command, spread my feet apart, and put my hand down at the level of her nose as a target so she knows where to go. I also continued working on having her walk forward while in this position, as well as her puppy push-ups, where Trinket will go from a down to a sit and vice versa, so she generalizes those commands and listens no matter where she is when given the commands. Since she will be a decently large-sized dog, this task will be used while we are in line or in a crowded area where there are lots of people so that she will be out of the way. Working on the task under, which will be used for a few different things. First, while sitting at a restaurant or in a public location, Trinket will be able to be kept out of the way of other people. In addition, I often have sudden drops in blood pressure, so this task will be used to help elevate my legs, which will help to raise my blood pressure. I started teaching this by having her sit behind my legs while I was sitting on a bench. We've now graduated to where Trinket will lay under my legs while my knees are both bent, and I'm not putting any weight on her as she's just a puppy and is still growing. Once she's fully grown, I will eventually teach her to go under my legs and then stand up so she can raise my legs for me, since I sometimes have a difficult time functioning when my blood pressure drops and may need her help elevating my legs. This will be one of her medical response tasks. We continued working on the task under while in more distracting environments. While training at this location, which is pet friendly, there were brighter lights, louder noises, statues, animatronics, more people, dogs, and kids than there are in our local mall. For this reason, we started with training in the mall as it was easier for her to handle at that time. At this location, there were also 2 sets of sliding glass doors on either side of the entryway that both have fans that blow air on you as you walk in. When we first started training here, Trinket didn't like the statues that were outside, the fan blowing on her, or the sound of the doors sliding open to the point where we couldn't go into the store. Now, after taking it very slowly, she approaches the statues willingly, doesn't mind the fan, and is able to walk through the doors. In this clip, we have passed all the statues that were outside and are sitting just in the entryway. This is an example of why taking things slowly and choosing a proper location for public access training is so important. I'll be going into greater depth on this topic in a future video. Next, we started working on circle, where Trinket will walk in a circle around me when prompted. This task is great for crowd control. I started teaching this by placing her kibble in both of my hands and luring her in a circle around my legs. Once she understood this concept, I only placed kibble in one hand and used the other hand as a target that I placed at the level of her nose so she would know where to go. I eventually faded out the lure and transitioned to a hand signal and added the verbal cue. Surprisingly, Trinket caught on to this very quickly and understood it in a few short sessions, so I went ahead and did some generalization training with her, where we worked on the first stage of this task in public locations. This is an off-leash task, so make sure that you only do this in public when you and your pup are ready. At home, she has been able to circle while I take a few steps forward, so we'll be working on perfecting this task and then generalizing it in the public locations. This is also one of Trinket's new favorite tasks. We've also been working on behavior interruptions. Since quite a few of my behaviors are subtle, I decided to start with ones that would be more obvious to set her up for success. You'll notice in these clips, you'll see me scratch my leg or arm, squeeze my fingers, or bounce or shake my leg up and down. There are a few others I'll be teaching her in the future, but I wanted to make sure to start with ones that would be easy for her to recognize. Before starting this, I tried to really pay attention to my body and my actions before a panic or anxiety attack. I also asked my husband to help me keep track of these behaviors as well, and we made a list of things I do when I feel anxious that may also indicate that a panic attack is coming. I also made sure to teach Trinket the touch command and made sure she had good focus before teaching her to recognize these behaviors. I'm not sure why, but I didn't record any potty training videos, which is something every service dog has to know before being able to be considered a service dog. In order for any dog to be a service dog, they must be potty trained, and like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I use the crate as a tool to help with potty training. I also taught Trinket to ring the bell to let me know when she needs to go potty outside. I chose to teach her to ring the bell in order to eliminate barking, as service dogs are not typically supposed to bark unless task trained to do so. Before Trinket was potty trained, and even now that she is, I always make sure to take Trinket potty before we go into any store. If she doesn't go potty, we do not go into the store. It's important to remember that when you're taking your pup out for public access training, you're going to the selected location with the sole purpose of training. Part of that training is potty training, and getting your pup used to going potty every time before you enter a store is very important. I also make sure to limit our time to 15 minutes at the most to prevent any accidents and to allow us to end each session on a positive note. In comparison to other things that Trinkets learned, I feel the potty training was very slow, and it was a gradual process that had to be done in very small gradual baby steps. Now at 5 months old, Trinket is finally fully potty trained, which makes public access training and life in general so much easier. Since Trinket is now fully potty trained, I've been taking her to food trucks, small quick serve restaurants, and coffee shops like Starbucks so we can work on her table manners. As a disclaimer, the state laws where I currently live allow service dogs in training to have the same public access rights as service dogs. However, I don't take Trinket into restaurants where we would be sitting and eating for an extended period of time, as I don't feel she's ready to handle that level of distraction. You'll see in each of these clips that while Trinket is at the table with me, she is calm and is not trying to jump on me or grab any food from the table or off the floor. This is something we've been working on since day one when we brought her home at 8 weeks. I first started by giving her a bully stick or preferred chew toy anytime I'd sit down to eat at home to make the experience errorless. Before Trinket was potty trained, I also practiced this in the car by going through different drive-thrus and eating in the car while Trinket had a bully stick in the back seat. Now at 5 months old, Trinket has never begged for my food and calmly sits at my feet anytime we grab a bite to eat. Another crucial part of Trinket's training is desensitizing her to different sounds and loud noises. Since day one, Trinket has been desensitized to the sound of fireworks, large trucks, loud clapping and cheering, a busy coffee house, the gym, car alarms, burglar alarms, thunderstorms, the vacuum, the hairdryer, the Dremel, and so many more. Most of the sounds I found on Spotify and would turn on at a low level, then increase the volume while training her at home, playing, while going about our daily routine, or while she was sleeping in her crate, so long as she didn't show any signs of distress. It's important to desensitize your dog to every sound you can think of, even if it seems silly, because you never know when you're going to encounter it. When I took Trinket to a sporting goods store, I didn't realize there was a bowling alley inside the store. Since it wasn't something we had worked on quite yet, Trinket became very anxious, so I decided to leave the store. Now it's taking her a little longer to get used to the sound of a bowling alley than any other sound she's been introduced to. However, during the 4th of July, Trinket was not fazed at all by the sound of fireworks since it had been introduced to her at home and she was already familiar with it. Of course, there are many other sounds we'll continue working on in the future. The last thing I'll mention in this video is the command leave it. I started teaching this to Trinket when she was about 9 to 10 weeks old. I started with basic impulse control exercises while having her kibble in one of my hands. As she ignored it and stopped pawing at my hand, I would mark and reward her with a kibble from my training pouch. Gradually, I opened my hand and rewarded her each time she ignored the food and offered me her attention. Eventually, I was able to introduce the verbal cue and place the food on the ground. I then generalized this in the house and in public locations. As a service dog, Trinket will be required to ignore food that may fall on the ground at a restaurant, that someone might drop, or that a stranger might offer. It is important for her to be able to ignore the distraction of food. It's also an important command that keeps her safe from anything that's on the floor, such as dropped medication, candy wrappers, screws if you're working on a project in the house, broken glass, or anything like that. Right now we're working on this with her kibble, but we'll be moving on to dropping small bits of cheese and pieces of food in the coming weeks. To continue following Trinket's Service Dog journey, you can find her at Service Dog Trinket on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time.